All right. Well, welcome everybody to our next Nexus webinar. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Andrew Estes, and joining me today is my new friend, Chris Abbott. From Church Marketing University. Chris Abbott is the co-owner of Church Marketing University and one of the leading experts on Facebook ads for churches and doing digital ministry. His extensive years of experience as a pastor, marketer, and entrepreneur have given him unique insight into how to use the psychology, ministry, and marketing to help pastors achieve sustainable church growth. He's been a part of several different church plants, different ministries throughout the years, and he has helped coach thousands of pastors through different online church growth programs, and now works with Church Marketing University. He has a YouTube channel. He's obsessed with helping leaders make heaven crowded. So Chris, thank you so much for taking some time for us today, man.
Man, Andrew, thanks for having me on, bro. I'm pumped to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, I mean, obviously there's a million different ways that we could take this conversation and just different things that churches do to grow, especially newer churches. I love the fact that you work with a ton of small churches. So our Nexus network has, 70 plus churches and more that we've launched, and more than that we actually care for and partner with. And most all of them are under 200. And one of the things that I just wanted to just kind of pick your brain about is just kind of see what is working right now, what's going on right now, in particular focusing in on like some Facebook prayer ads, but we'll walk through all of that in some of our conversation today. But just before we get started, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Just if you would share with us just some of your experiences in ministry, where you're from, what you do, and just a little bit more about Chris Abbott.
Yeah, man. So, well, what's up, y'all? My name's Chris Abbott. And all my friends call me Abbo, right? So, Andrew, we're friends now, man. You can call me Abbo. It's interesting. I spent my whole life, bro, like preparing for full-time ministry, right? So, like, I got saved when I was 13 years old, like radically saved, and like a month later, like I was asking the Lord, like, what I should do, like with my life or whatever, right? And I looked down at the Bible and these words, and Timothy just jumped off the page that said, like, preach the word, and I was like, okay, that's it, right? So preparing my entire life. And so I did that, man. I went to, ORU and had a theology major, pastoral Christian ministries, and was kind of working my whole life to be in the ministry. And then I was in full-time ministry for a number of years. But I just always had this burden to like help churches. Right. And that was like, the thing is like, man, you and I were kind of talking a little bit before here. It's like, I had this thing where it was like, I remember being on staff of my church and years ago, and my pastor came to me, he's like, hey, do you like what you're doing? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, what do you, like, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? It's like, I'd coach pastors. And then I was like, oh, like, I don't even know if I'd really thought about it that much. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, man, social media and technology and all this different stuff, man, these systems we've created, like, I'd love to just help churches all over that don't know how to do this stuff. I'd love to help them do it. So, and so that's it's my life has kind of been on this trajectory ever since, right? And it's been a long journey, but man, at the end of the day, the reason that I do this, right, is because I can make a lot of money running Facebook ads for like chiropractors or pediatricians or roofing companies or something like that. The thing is, I just don't care, right? Like I've had those guys where I was at one point, I was running Facebook ads for like a Mercedes dealerships. They came to me like, hey, do you run our Facebook ads? I was like, sure, right? And I remember like we did it for like 3 months, and then like they quit. Like we had a 3-month agreement. They quit after the 3-month agreement. And I thought, oh, thank God. Right. Like I couldn't get excited. I didn't care if people go out and buy a brand new Mercedes. Right. Like, man, people are lost and dying and going to hell. I know that every single day, 7,755 people die in the US, and most of them don't have a relationship with Jesus. Right. And that number keeps me up at night. And so trying to run Facebook ads for like small businesses, I love those guys. Right. Like I run a small business myself, but like, I just couldn't get excited about helping them like get more leads or sell more Mercedes or sell a roof or something. Like when I knew that people were dying every single day and I needed to make a dent in that number. And so, man, at the end of the day, like that's what keeps me up at night. That's what, gets me up in the morning. That's what keeps me going is, man, I want to help as many churches as humanly possible so that we can make a dent in that number. And that, man, tomorrow, the 7,755 people that die in the US, a little bit more of them know Jesus because of what we did here. And I think if we can do that right over and over and over every single day, we can make heaven crowded.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, so you live in Oklahoma currently, right?
Yep.
Tulsa area.
Oklahoma.
That's awesome. So you, I believe you worked with Guts Church for a little while.
Yeah.
Is that's in Tulsa, correct?
Yeah. So that's in Tulsa. I've been, so I was, I went to Guts for about 10 years, started going there when I was in college and helped out, did a full-time ministry internship after I graduated college. I spent a couple of years volunteering in the youth ministry. And then I did like a full-time ministry internship, which is a pretty intense thing here, the way they do it at Guts. It was pretty incredible. And then, went into full-time ministry after that and did a number of things, took a job as a youth pastor at another church in Oklahoma for about 5 years. And then I've been back at Guts for about 7. So I think altogether, I've been going to Guts for about 17 years here and been on staff a number of times and done all kinds of things. And yeah, man, it's pretty cool. Incredible church, reaching a lot of people. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, so guys, I first got introduced to Chris Abbo through some different marketing stuff as we were getting ready to launch our church. So Revive Christian Church launched in 2016 here in Loveland, Colorado. I was helping one of our pastors on staff being able to do that type of stuff. And one of the things is that you do as a church plant kind of naturally is just trying, how do we connect with new people? And you're just trying anything and everything under the sun to just get connected to literally anybody you can. You're doing, we did mailers, we did door hangers, we walked all over the city doing door hangers. We're meeting with people in parks and really just started getting in tune with a lot of just the digital marketing and digital ministry of Facebook ads and all the different avenues that really opens up to you. That's not just on Facebook. It just goes so many different places, and people are playing video games and they're seeing our advertisements and some coming to our church because of some of those different types of things. And so why don't you, well, that was kind of my introduction to you, of just walking through some of that stuff and just some of the basic things of, pastor videos, of intro videos and shooting videos like vertically rather than horizontal. Just some real basic stuff when it came to Facebook marketing. Why don't you walk us through some of the genesis of how your coaching for church marketing kind of started?
Yeah. So it was really interesting when I was on staff at that church. I told you I took a staff position as a youth pastor for 5 years in another church. When I was, it was a great church, and I was a youth pastor, but then I was like, oh, wait a second, like, hey, like, you know how to do graphics. So then next thing you know, I was also the media pastor, right? And then it was like, wait a second, like, you lead worship. So next thing you know, I was the worship leader. And then it was like, wait a second, hey, we need a website. So next thing you know, I had to go learn and teach myself WordPress, and I became the web guy, right? So I kept just accruing hats as I was there. And so one of the things I decided to do, I remember it was at the tail end of 2013. I was like, okay, man, everything is switching over to social media. I remember I was about to delete my Facebook account because I was like, I'm so sick of social media. Everybody gets on there and just rants and it's all this stuff. But I was like, man, instead I was looking at, I was like, man, it was growing so big, right? I was like, man, and at the time, I think there were less than 2 billion or something. Right now we're at like 2.9 billion people on Facebook. At the time, I think it was like 1.9. And I just thought, man, that's like the largest missions field the church has ever seen, right? Like I could see everything was like going towards Facebook and social media marketing in general. So I just thought that's going to be the future of how we reach people in the church world. And so I laugh at this now, Andrew, but at the tail end of 2013, I was like, okay, I'm going to take all of 2014 and I'm going to become a Facebook ads expert. I'm going to learn everything I can about social media marketing and specifically Facebook ads. And at the end of 2014, at the end of 1 year, I'll be an expert. Now, the reason I laugh about that is because as anyone on here like knows, right? Social media changes so much, and like Facebook's probably changed the algorithm twice since we started this call, right? Like everything like just changes all the time. So even if you became an expert at the end of 1 year, like everything that would be outdated in 6 months and irrelevant in 12, right? So it changes so fast. So I laugh at that now because it's just an ongoing conversation and ongoing learning of what's going on. But I took 2014. I studied Facebook ads the entire year. And I remember my church came to me, my pastor, we had forgotten to run ads in the newspaper about this back to school backpacks thing, right? So we did this every year. It was a back to school event. We went out, we bought 400 backpacks. We filled them full of school supplies. And then we would always, the elementary school would like put it up on the marquee out there. And then we would take out like a full page ad in the newspaper, just letting people know about this event. And then people would show up and, we'd take the leftover backpacks and either go donate them or try to give them away or whatever it is. And so this year, like my pastor came to me, it was like Wednesday. He's like, dude, we forgot to advertise. I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, okay, there's this new thing called Facebook ads. Man, give me $150 and let me just see if I can try to get the word out and get a few people here on Sunday. So I ran ads Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I told you I'd become the web guy. So I went on and created a quick landing page, just talking about the school supplies, what time it was, ran Facebook ads to that for 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then on Sunday, we showed up fingers crossed, hopefully somebody actually shows up. And dude, it was nuts, man. We got there on Sunday morning and there was a line wrapped around the building. Right. And I just looked and at first I was like, what the heck? There's little kids eating Pop-Tarts in line. And I was like, oh my gosh, the Facebook ads, they're here for the back to school event. This is crazy. So we had free Chick-fil-A. It was supposed to last all day. It was gone in 10 minutes. We had a bunch of, we had 400 backpacks that were gone in 45 minutes. That's just because that's how long it took everybody in line to get through. So we had to start taking down everyone's name and number. Hey, we'll go buy more backpacks, more school supplies. We'll call you. You can pick them up this week. I mean, it was nuts, bro. My pastor walked into the gym and it was standing room only. And it was dude, what did you do? I'm like, bro, Facebook ads. Who knew? This is crazy. And so, from there, I just kind of started posting in church Facebook groups. I was like, hey, if you guys aren't using Facebook ads right now, they're working like crazy. Here's what we just did at my church and it worked. And then people were like, whoa, hey, what did the Facebook ad look like? Oh, here. And so we just kind of started doing that. And I started getting invited on podcasts and different interviews and online conferences and stuff like that. And it just kind of kept snowballing. And then people were like, hey, can I just pay you to run my Facebook ads? I tried to do what you did. I couldn't figure it out. So I'm like, oh yeah, sure. I don't know, right. And so next thing you know, I had 25 churches I was running Facebook ads for and things just kind of exploded. So, man, it was, pretty crazy time, but that's kind of what happened. Right. And then we, over the years started to realize that we could help a lot more churches if we were coaching them on how to do this and then giving them the templates and all the resources rather than, trying to run Facebook ads for them myself. So that's kind of what we've been doing here, man. It's been awesome.
That's awesome, man. So obviously there are very, very bad ways that this can be done that churches sometimes do. It's not just, just offer it and then, just kind of the bill that they will come type of an idea, field of dreams. But you guys do it really well and train people to do it really well. And, fast forward, almost 10 years from when you first started doing some of these different types of things. One of the things that you're doing currently is something you call Facebook prayer ads, which is something that's, just a total different mindset in the whole marketing conversation. And, a couple of the different phrases that I've loved from some of you guys that have kind of come up. I think one of the things that you've said for years is, people that refuse to learn, social media kind of equates to a missionary going to a different country and refusing to learn the language. Or something to that effect. I got just that idea. And then just the whole idea of just, it's marketing, it's ministry, not marketing. Just all of these concepts behind, kind of overcoming the barriers as to why we need to be involved in these spaces. Obviously, man, 10 years from now, the whole metaverse and different things is going to be one of those things. For all the early adopters, we think are nuts, but maybe 10 years from now, we're just going to think oh, this is just normal church of what we do at this point. But can you just back up for a second and just talk to us about what is a Facebook prayer ad? And what does that kind of look like, and how has that kind of changed the game for some of these environments?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the we actually kind of figured this out for a couple of years ago. So what happened was one of the fastest growing churches. I spent a lot of time just studying what the fastest growing churches in the world are doing. And so I came across a church in the 1990s that was. They were the pastor was kind of straight off the streets, and what he was doing was they became one of the fastest growing churches in the 90s. And he'll admit, he's I had no idea what I was doing, right? He hadn't been saved that long. He started a church, and so because he was man, I didn't know how to grow a church, so all he would do is he would actually he would go to the local gas station down the street from his house, right? And he would just start pumping people's gas, and and then while he was pumping their gas, he'd be hey man, how can I pray for you, right? And so people were man, is the gas station attendant guy want to pray for me? It's I don't know, man, my marriage kind of sucks. He'd be cool, let's pray for your marriage, right? And so he'd start praying for him, and then in the middle of it, he'd just be hey man, why don't you pray this with me, right? Just say, dear God, I give you my life, right? Man, I turn my back on sin, and he just lead him through the sinner's prayer, right? So he's well, do they mean it or not? I don't know, right? Like, but the Bible says, man, if you believe in your heart, confess with your lips, Jesus is Lord. He's like, I can't do anything about them believing in their heart, but at least I can make sure they confess with their lips, right? So he started doing that. Well, so some people were like, it was an awkward like thanks, and they drive off. But then some people just like break down and start bawling right there after accepting Christ. And so the interesting thing is that just like kind of the law of large numbers, if you pray for like 200 or 300 people at a gas station every single weekend, some of them are going to end up asking you why you're doing it, right? And it's like, do you work for the gas station? It's like, oh no, I pastor the church down the street, right? And then some of them are actually going to show up on Sunday, and that's exactly what happened. And so that's one of the main reasons he was one of the fastest growing churches in the '90s, is because he was literally just praying for people at gas stations, and then like some of those people would show up at church, right? And so like it's kind of crazy, but literally that was it. I mean, he got featured in like National Geographic. He got featured in Rolling Stone magazine. He got featured on MTV, right? Back in the '90s when all those things were like still cool, right? And so that was kind of the genesis of everything, and kind of how that started. And so we started looking at this here a couple of years ago and just said, okay, and that worked in like 1992, but what would work like nowadays, right? Like what would the equivalent of that be? Because and you go try to pump people's gas and pray for them at the gas pump now, they'll probably call the cops on you, right? It won't work in 2022. So, what we basically realize is that the principle behind this, we now call it the gas station principle. It's that what everybody else does, right? Like is we do this, like we invite people to church so that we can do ministry. And it makes sense. It's like, if we can get them in the front door, man, we can pray for them. We can get them saved, get them baptized, plugged into a small group or a serve team, right? So we invite people to church so we can do ministry. What he did is he flipped it, and he did ministry first and then invited people to church, right? It seems like just kind of like a small thing, but that flip, doing everything upside down, completely changed everything, right? And so once we identified that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, right? So I start looking in the word. I'm like, this is what Jesus did, right? Like you look at like Luke 5, like in the calling of Peter. It's not like he was like, hey, Peter, drop your nets and your boats and follow me, bro. It's like, right? No, like he first used Peter's boat and preached to everybody, right? And then he told Peter, hey, go out to where it's deep and put down your nets for a catch, right? His nets start breaking, his boat starts sinking. He calls his business partners. They come over, then their nets start breaking, their boats start sinking, right? And he comes in, it's like, oh my gosh, Lord, like I'm not worthy, right? And it's just like, Jesus, like, hey, come follow me, right? Like he did ministry first, he did a miracle first, then he invited people. And all throughout the gospel, he didn't travel, all throughout the land, like inviting people to church. He traveled out like preaching and doing ministry, praying for people and healing. And so the more we looked at it, we're like, man, I think there's something to this whole gas station principle. So we just created an ad that said, just like kind of calling out the city, like, hey, Tulsa, how can we pray for you? Right. And just use the picture of the pastor. And I remember the first church I did this at was actually a church plant down in Coconut Creek, Florida. Right. So sitting there, I'd been running this Facebook ads for a couple of months. He had a huge launch. Things were going really well, really well. I was like, hey, Stephen, I don't know if this is going to work, but here's kind of the story behind it. And here's what we did. I think we don't even have to send them to Facebook or send them to your website. I think we can keep them on Facebook and just send them into Messenger, and we can create some automated responses, right? They're called chatbots. We'll create like these automated responses that can like collect people's prayer requests and then invite them to church and walk them through planning your visit. Like, it might not work at all, but do you want to test it? He's like, absolutely. Right. So the cool thing was, in 6 weeks, he ended up having 111 plan your visits in 6 weeks. Right. So he prayed for just over 900 people. And 111 of them went on to plan a visit to his church. So he's just like, bro, like, this is crazy, right? People just pouring in the front door, like, what's going on? And it was a game changer. And we were like, okay, well, it worked there. I wonder if it'll work somewhere else, right? We tried another church, like, boom, it took off. Tried another church, it just exploded. So we ended up having a church of 15 that grew from 15 to 50 in 2 months. Right, like using prayer ads. We had another church that grew. They're a church plant. They were about 5 years old, right, and they were running 60 people. They'd just been stuck at 60 for years in a small town. They went from 60 to 110 in 3 months, right? Like, and all of a sudden, like, the pastor started getting recognized around town as like the pastor that prays for people, right? And they're like, oh, hey, you're from that church that prays for people, right? And it's like, oh, hey, that's the Facebook pastor, right? Like, like all around town. And it was just crazy, right? So, 60 to 110 in 3 months. We had a church plan of 130. They just got stuck at 130 and couldn't figure out how to get past that point. They grew from 130 to 200 in 3 months. And they had their 2 largest membership classes of people actually joining the church in July and August. So literally in 3 months over the summer, when everybody else was going through the summer slump, they ended up going from 130 to 200, broke the 200 barrier, had their 2 largest membership classes of people joining the church in July and August. And the biggest reason all of this works, it's not like a silver bullet, right? It's not like this magic button, right? It's nothing like that. It works because this isn't marketing, this is ministry, right? And so it's the same way that when that pastor was out there praying for people at the gas pump, right? Like it's not shocking. Like if you go pray for 200 people, it's not shocking if like 15 or 20 of them show up to church. It's like, yeah, you prayed for 200. Right? Like Jesus prayed for 10 guys, only one of them came back, right? So like it's not that shocking. And that's what we started seeing with the prayer ads. It was like, oh yeah, like, man, if you go pray for 100 people, about 10% of them will end up planning a visit to your church. And so, we've now run this at over 600 churches. And that's kind of what we see is, man, when you do this, if you set this up correctly, when you do an ad that says, hey, how can I pray for you? And you run it into Facebook and then use chat bots, right? Like automated sequences to collect the prayer request and walk people through a system and then invite them to church. About 10% of them will plan a visit. And then there's a couple of things that we found that you can do on the back end to actually double the amount of visitors that you have as well, using some human interaction. We have to actually go in and pray for them yourself and kind of meet them. And so, but at the end of the day, it works because it's not marketing, it's ministry. Right? Prayer ads work because prayer works, right? And you spend time praying for people and building that relationship equity, right? And things start to shift in their life and they see the power of prayer. Of course, they're going to be open to visiting your church on Sunday. So that's kind of what we've seen, man, which has been, it's been pretty incredible. Some of the results that have happened in some of the churches we've been able to help.
That's awesome. So you kind of introduced a handful of topics for us to kind of just to bring some clarity on some certain things, whether it's the chatbot idea or Facebook Messenger or moving into plan your visit and that whole model and different things, the systems that are in place, not just running ads. And I think that's one of the pitfalls that a lot of times we fall into is that we throw ads out there, but there's no back end follow up or no system in place to direct them to certain places and have them action steps and do certain things. And so just being sure that we're following through with whatever system it is that we're putting in place, rather than just saying, hey, come to this thing and just hoping people show up. Kind of going back. So when you're first putting these ads out there, like what do they look like? Is it literally just like, hey, how can we pray for you? Is that like, that's all it is?
Yeah, right. And so, and you can add some copy to kind of personalize it a little bit, right? Like, and try to, the most important thing is that you're making an emotional connection with people, right? And so, and that, I mean, really, that's the secret sauce to a Facebook ad in general. It doesn't matter if it's a prayer ad or an invite ad or an event ad or anything like that. It's all about, you have to make some type of an emotional connection with people in your ad, which gets them to like kind of stop scrolling through their feed and like they go, oh wow, right? Like, and it could be like they could chuckle, right? They could think that's clever. They could, maybe in marketing, a lot of times they'll say, oh, you need to either make them laugh or make them cry, right? Which is kind of an oversimplification, right? But it really just need to have some type of an emotional connection, right? So like the cool thing is like with prayer ads, when people see that, right? And because everybody's going through something. Right. Yeah. And so whenever you see a prayer ad, if you're going through something, right, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, even atheists and agnostics feel like, well, it can't hurt to have a pastor praying for me, right? Like, so, there a lot of times we'll have skeptics who reach out and submit prayer requests. But then there's also just people that maybe they're not going through anything right now, like things are good for them, but they still have an emotional connection with your ad. And they go, oh my gosh, wow, this is awesome. Like, look at Pastor Andrew's out here just praying for people. Man, this is so cool. And then they'll share your ad on their personal profile. And then Facebook, right now, it gets shared with everybody that they're friends with. And it didn't even cost you anything for that, just because they shared it. So that's the most important thing. You can kind of personalize it a little bit to your situation and to your church. But you just need to ask people how you can pray for them and make sure that you're connecting with them on an emotional level. That'll get them to take the next step, which is clicking on the ad, right? And then going into Facebook Messenger and actually submitting their prayer request.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways that people go from there. So let's say that you've presented this ad, you're trying to connect with people, get them to pray for them. I know there's like a manual way that you can respond in Messenger, and then also the chatbot idea. Can you walk us through just the manual piece first of like
Yeah.
actually just click it, like the audio thing of just actually saying a prayer for somebody and just sending that message, and what that communication kind of looks like, and
Yeah.
then how it can be automated or different things?
Yeah, sure thing. So I think one of the important distinctions to know is like no matter what, you're gonna have to be involved, right? And there has to be like actual like manual, like you have to jump in, right? So even with a chatbot, you still have to jump in at the end, which we can talk about here in just a second. But the manual side of it, so if you don't use any chatbots or automation, then basically someone is clicking on the ad. So it's called a messages ad, right? So people go in, they click on the ad, it opens up Facebook Messenger, and now they can send you a message, right? And so this works really well. But without automation, there's a couple of things that are tough. So, for example, right? So let's say somebody goes in and says, "Hey, Pastor Andrew, man, if you could just pray for my wife, and she's having surgery next week. Her name's Susie. We're just a little bit nervous about it. So, man, if you could pray, that'd be awesome." Right? So he sends that prayer request. Well, if you're not checking Facebook Messenger all the time, what happens is like, man, maybe John goes in, sends you that message, and then he doesn't hear anything back, right? And now it's been 24 hours, right? So 24 hours later, you go and you're like, oh my gosh, John sent this yesterday, and you go interact with them. The only bummer about that is now it feels like John's like, man, did Pastor Andrew like get my message? Did he see anything? I didn't hear anything back, right? Like, so if you're not in the habit of checking Facebook Messenger like multiple times a day, this one can be tough. It's still a much it's a pretty simple way to do it, right? Because you don't have to like set up any type of automation or anything like that. You set up the ad one time, and then prayer requests come in through Messenger, and you can interact with people. It's hard to scale it that way, but you can absolutely do it manually, right? Like it just takes a lot of work. And typically from what we've seen, it doesn't work nearly as well as when you have some automation in place, right? I think that's simply just because you don't have a system, right? You kind of talked about this earlier. I've got my business partner, Ryan Wakefield, right? Brilliant guy. And one of the just a guy with just character integrity, right? Like one of the best people, like one of the best humans you've ever met. He tells the story about how when he first like moved into his house, one of the problems he had was his grass kept getting brown, right? So he lives in Missouri, and it was just like, man, like it's hot, right? There's not a lot of rain, and so all of his grass would just die every summer. So he started going out there and be like, okay, you know what I need? Like, man, I have to water my grass. Well, what's the best way to water my grass? It's with a sprinkler. So he started going out there and he started, watering his grass. And like if one, patch got brown, he'd run out there with a sprinkler and set it up, and he'd water that patch. And then, man, there was one in the backyard. So now he ran around to the back, and he's got it, and he's hauling a sprinkler over to the side of the house. And he's just running around like the yard all year long, and he couldn't keep on top of it. And it kept like dying. And so he finally went to like a lawn guy and just said, man, I've been trying this forever. I've got a sprinkler, but it's not working. And the guy just laughed and just said, man, yeah, you live in Missouri, right? Like the only way for you to have grass that doesn't die is with a sprinkler system, right? And he was just like, oh my gosh, that's the problem. Like he had a sprinkler, right? So that part was right, but he didn't have a sprinkler system, right? All these parts moving together in order to make it happen. And I think that's the biggest problem. And I mean, Andrew, I couldn't agree with you more. Like you just hit on this a second ago. There's no back end system like to power everything. And I think that's the problem is you just need to have a system when you're doing everything. And so that's one of the reasons, like if you have a chat bot and something like it's a system that's a little bit more scalable, right? But what I recommend is even if you end up doing it manually, right? You run a Facebook ad that goes into Messenger, and then you're responding to all the prayer requests. But my favorite way to respond is actually by sending an audio prayer, right? And so this can be just like 60 seconds long. But what it does is I have something called the 3-part conversation elevation framework. Right. So when a prayer request first comes in, you've got like this online anonymous conversation. You don't know them. They don't know you.
Oh, sad day. Uh-oh, I think he froze. Well, for those of you who are still watching, one of the things that hopefully Chris will join us here in a second, but oh, there he is.
Oh, there we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. I was still
Oh,
talking, man. So I don't know where you lost me at.
yeah, yeah, no. So you're just about to talk about the audio prayers,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
just to move into being able to actually, instead of like typing out a prayer, of actually hearing somebody's voice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So the audio prayer is really important. It's we have something we call the three-part conversation elevation framework, right? And so the reason an audio prayer is important is like when they first submit their prayer request, like they don't know you, you don't know them. So it's kind of like this online anonymous conversation. But what happens is when they get an audio prayer from you and they hear your voice using their name praying for their situation, what it does is it basically elevates that to a personal connection, right? So it takes it from an online interaction to a personal connection, right? And so now when you invite them to church, you're tapping into the power of a personal invite, which we all know is the single most, single best type of invite out there. And so basically the three-part conversation elevation framework is pretty simple. It just looks like this. Like the first thing you want to do is you want to introduce yourself, right? The second thing you want to do is pray for them. And then the fourth thing you want to do is end it with a question, right? So intro, prayer, question. So it might look like something like this. So the example we said earlier, right? John and his wife, Susie, who's having surgery next week, right? If I'll send an audio prayer, I'll jump in and just say, right. So I'll start recording and you can do all of this through like a simple app, right? So it's super easy, but just like, hey, John, what's going on, man? This is Pastor Chris. Hey, listen, I saw your prayer request and I just want to reach out and pray for you personally, man. So let's pray. Right. You just need, it's real simple, but you just need some type of intro explaining who you are and why you're reaching out. Otherwise, if they just hit play and it's like, dear God, I just pray for John right now. It's like, whoa, what is this guy? Right. Like, so you want to be energetic and upbeat, right? But also explain who you are. The second thing you want to do is pray for him, which I don't think anybody here needs training on that, right? Go in and pray for him. Like, hey, God, man, I thank you for John and his wife, Susie, and her upcoming surgery next week. God, I pray for the doctors and the nurses who will be performing the surgery, right? You go through your prayer in Jesus' name, amen. And the third part is you want to end it with a question, right? So what I like to do is, man, in Jesus' name, amen. Man, John, I tell you what, we're actually having church this Sunday at 10 o'clock. Can you make it? End of audio. Right. So the last thing that you say should be a question. And literally the very last thing you say should be a question mark. Right. So it's really important to do that. What happens, we're tapping into the power of something called open loops. Right. So you want to open up a loop in their brain when you talk to them. Questions do that. If you don't end it with a question to open that loop, what happens is a lot of people will ask a question, but then keep talking and they'll add softeners on the end of it. And then you close the loop. Right. So for example, I might say, man, John, I tell you what, we're actually having church this Sunday at 10 o'clock. Can you make it? Man, we sure would love to host you and your family. And if you have kids, man, we got a great kids program. And so, okay, well, just let me know, bro. Right. You close the loop. Right. So what you want to do is just like literally just, hey, John, we're actually having church this service. We're actually having service at church this Sunday at 10 o'clock. Can you make it? Right. And so now he's going to feel on the hook to respond. Right. And so this is one of those things where it's like awkward the first 30 or 40 times you do it. And then when you see how massively effective it is, like you start like doing it in all of your text messages and emails and every other form of communication out there. Right. So it's really, really powerful, but that's the game changer. You can actually double the amount of visitors that you have simply by doing this and ending it with a question. Right. So that's kind of what the audio prayer looks like. And like I said, we test this at churches all over the place. It's so personal and authentic that like people just can't believe, because they asked you to pray for them. They didn't expect that you would take time to send out like a recorded audio prayer to them. And it creates that conversation elevation. And then when you invite them to church, now you're tapping into the power of a personal invite. Right. So even the people that don't come, which is fine, right? We know 90% of people out there probably aren't going to come. It's just the 10% that do want us to pray in person and do want to come out to a service to experience it. Those are the ones that we're trying to get. And so you can be really, really effective by going all in, sending that, creating that relationship equity, right? That personal connection, then tapping into the power of a personal invite by inviting them to church.
Yeah. I love that, just being able to make it just so much more personal in our marketing rather than just getting a flyer in the mail or whatever it is, and just seeing an advertisement in a notebook or in a newspaper or whatever it might be, just being able to have that, because everybody's on Facebook. I mean, one of the things that you guys talk about, like, it just billions upon billions of people are using Facebook still, even though there's all these different avenues of social media now that,
Yep.
some of the younger generations are using. But being able to not only hit a person like once, but over and over and over again that live in your area, that they're seeing your advertisement 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a week or a month or whatever that is. But being able to ask that and then to answer and respond. I think one of my questions before we kind of move on in the process does it have to be the lead pastor that's doing this, or is there a team that you can kind of put in place, especially amongst like smaller churches, right? I mean, so if you're working with churches that are 60, 70, 100 people, there's not a ton of staff involved. Are there other people that you recruit into these type of roles that are actually doing the prayers and staying up on because not all the lead pastors are very tech savvy. Maybe half of them or less maybe super involved in social media, but what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So what I always recommend is that the lead pastor does this for the first 30 days. Right. So if you do it yourself for the first 30 days, the tech side of it's actually really simple because it's literally one app. You open it up, like you click on the person, right? Like you open it up in Messenger, you open up their message, you click on like a little microphone icon and you're recording, right? So I can teach anyone how to do that in 30 seconds, even if they are totally non-techie. So that part's pretty easy. We recommend that the senior pastor do this for the first 30 days because what it does is it allows you to understand the system. It allows you to kind of get your fingerprints on it, your DNA, and start to understand a little bit more about how it works, right? That way, after 30 days, now if you want to train up somebody, like maybe it's somebody else on staff, maybe it's a volunteer or somebody on your team, now you can train them. And so you can say, oh yeah, whenever people ask if we can pay their light bill, here's how I normally respond to that, right? It's like, okay, well, whenever people just ask for money here, actually put together a list of here's a PDF of all the different places around town that'll help with that, along with food pantries and stuff like that, right? It's like, oh yeah, people say they don't have a ride to church. Here's what I normally say to that, right? If they're having surgery, here's what I recommend. So it makes it a lot easier for you to train someone else on the system, and not just the tech side of it, but actually like the human and ministry side of it. Like, oh yeah, if I talk to this person, here's how I normally say that. And so normally that takes about 30 days to kind of do that. We had a church of 20 people that did this. And I remember he told me, he's like, dude, Chris, man, like we only have 20 people. That's including my family, bro. So like, man, we do this like it's just me. I'd love to raise somebody up, but it's just me. It's like, yeah, great. Well, in 5 months, that church of 20 people, he ended up having 1,892 prayer requests, right? So he literally by himself, and he told me this, he sent 1,892 audio prayers, right? In 5 months, but he had 209 people that planned a visit to his church in 5 months, right? Now that sounds crazy, but when you think about it, right? Like that's just a little bit more than 10%. Like it's not that crazy, right? If you have 2,000 people that you pray for, it's not crazy to think that 200 of them might actually come visit the church, right? So he had almost 1,900 people he prayed for, 209 plan your visits. And he did that all by himself, literally sending those audio prayers every single day. But it's one of those things that when you average it all out, it's not that crazy. It's not that many prayers that you're sending every day. And the best way to do it really is just to set aside one time a day when you send all the audio prayers, right? Because people aren't expecting the audio prayers. So when they get it, they're blown away, right? And especially if you have some type of automation coming up, like that's actually interacting with them, so they feel like they were taken care of right away. Then you come in behind it and send the audio prayer, and it kind of changes everything. And so, that's what he was doing. It's like, man, if every time right after dinner or right before bedtime, you just pull out your phone, you look and you had 3 prayer requests that day, right? You read them. It's like, okay, John, his wife surgery next week. Okay, great. Boom, you hit that audio thing. Like, hey, what's up, John? This is Pastor Chris. Man, I just wanted to reach out to you personally and pray for you. So, man, let's pray, right? It takes about 60 seconds per prayer request, right? So even from the time you have to read it and then send audio prayer, it's about 2 minutes per prayer request. So even if you had 5 prayer requests a day, you're only looking at like 5 to 10 minutes a day that you're doing this. So it really is just setting an alarm in your phone. When it goes off, you look at all your prayer requests, you send them out, and then you wait and do the next thing, do the same thing the next day. So, but yeah, I recommend the senior pastor do it for the first 30 days. Once you kind of get your fingerprints on it and breathe your DNA in it, then you can raise up somebody after that first month.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. Yeah, so the whole chatbot and some of the automation idea is just to, when somebody responds, they're just getting an immediate response of some kind, leading into eventually getting to the actual prayer from somebody.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, good. We could open up a whole can of worms with a whole plan your visit type of model and different things like that, because you've talked about that a lot, and some of our guys are familiar with that stuff. But for those that aren't, can you just give us a quick snapshot of when somebody moves from advertisements of any kind to a certain page of your website. What is the plan your visit structure that kind of goes along with that?
Yeah. Great question, man. So the plan your visit is basically giving someone the opportunity to basically schedule an appointment to your church, right? So that you can meet them at the front door, communicate with them before service, right? Like meet them at the front door when they get there, help them check their kids into kids church, give them a tour of the building, introduce them to some key staff and leaders, right? Get them a free cup of coffee or whatever it is that your church does, and then save seats for them in the service and sit with them in service, right? So the whole idea is that you want it to be like having a best friend waiting for you at the front door. Right. So you think about like, man, what would you do if you'd been inviting your best friend to church for like 10, 15, 20 years. And then one Sunday he's like, okay, bro, I'm coming to church this Sunday. Right. It's like, man, if that happened for me, man, I'd have like a parking spot right up front for him. Right. Like as soon as he pulled in, man, like I'd be high-fiving him. Right. Like, I'd be high-fiving his wife, like, hey, right this way, grabbing his kids, like, let's go. Right. And I'd go help him, get checked into kids church. Right. I'd get him like a free cup of coffee. I'd already have seats saved for him in the service. Probably like the 4th, 5th, or 6th row, right? So we're not all the way at the front where they're like embarrassed, but we're not way in the back where we can't see. Like be close to the front. And I'd go in, like I would introduce them to all the really cool people at church, but I'd probably shield them from some of the weird people, right? Like that's what I would do if my best friend showed up. That's all plan your visit is, right? You're treating them like family. So the biggest thing that we say is, a lot of churches when they first do this for the first time, like, okay, man, we're going to roll out the red carpet, man, we're starting our VIP program. I'm like, no, wait, this is not VIP. This is family. It seems like a subtle difference, but it's huge, right? You don't want to treat them like they're famous or like a movie star or rock star. Like nobody wants to be treated like that. Nobody goes to church like wanting to be treated like VIP. Are you kidding me? No.
Bring them up on stage and announce them to everybody.
That's exactly right, right? You're like, oh, let's everybody make this guy feel really awkward and embarrassed, right? It's like, no, like nobody wants to be VIP, so it's not VIP. It's just treat them like family, right? What would you do? One of your family members, your best friend showed up to church. What would you do for them? And that's what it is. And that shift to treating them like family is what changes everything, right? So when we first did this at our church, we actually increased our first time visitors in the first month. We increased our first time visitors using Plan Your Visit by 42%. Right. And then the second month, we increased our first time visitors by 60%. In the third month, 87%. And then the fourth month by 113%. Right. So at that point, my pastor was like, dude, we gotta start teaching this to people. Right. So we started teaching it to churches all around the world. And then they started seeing similar results. And I think the biggest reason is what it does is it lowers the barrier of entry for people to visit church for the first time. Right. Like, and you just think like, I got saved when I was 13. So like, I love being in church. It's not awkward for me at all going into a church where I don't know anybody, but I'm an extrovert. I like meeting people. I like trying new things. So like, that's fun for me. But we forget just how scary it is for someone, especially if they're backslidden or unchurched, have never set foot in a church before, just how scary it can be for them to like show up to a group of people they've never met before, going into a building they've never seen, listening to some dude they don't know anything about, talk to them for 30 or 45 minutes about the Bible. Like, that's really, really intimidating for an unchurched person. And so Plan Your Visit just lowers the barrier of entry because it's basically saying, hey, we'll have a friendly person waiting for you at the front door. It's the next best thing to a personal invite, because it's like having a best friend waiting for you at the front door to kind of show you around, make you feel a lot more comfortable. So when we started doing this, we ended up, our assimilation was usually about 3 to 6 months, right? So from the time somebody came for the very first time, they usually got plugged into our church and went through our Next Steps program within about 3 to 6 months, right? But once we launched Plan Your Visit, we found that 80% of the people who came through Plan Your Visit joined our church within 3 weeks, right? So it went from 3 to 6 months to 3 weeks, and it was 8 out of 10 people. Just because they're coming through Plan Your Visit, right? Because all of a sudden they're making a connection with someone the very first time, right? They're meeting somebody at the front door, they're sitting with them in service, they get a chance to see everything about the church, pointed out a lot of things that people, might not normally see, like, oh yeah, just that building across the street, that's actually our food pantry, man. We give it out over 400 bags of groceries every single Friday to families in need around the Tulsa, building. And then, man, this is our kids ministry, man. You see, this is how it is. We've actually got free ice cream for all our kids over here, just because, man, we love kids and we do all sorts of, and you're like, wow, like, so you notice all these things you wouldn't get a chance to maybe notice or get introduced to if you just showed up for the very first time. And so because of that, the assimilation just goes through the roof, and a lot more people end up joining your church because of Plan Your Visit.
That's awesome, man. And what are because I've seen some guys and maybe even personally like kind of trying and failing at a little bit of just putting a button on your website isn't enough when you just say like,
Right.
hey, plan your visit, right? Like what all does it entail to actually get this kind of up and running and actually people using it?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, putting a button on your website is like putting a sprinkler out front, right? Like it gets part of the yard, and hopefully it might make things a little bit better, but you still got the rest of the yard's kind of dying, right? So you need a sprinkler system. And it's the same thing with plan your visit. It's not just a button or an option like on your website, right? Like you need a system, but the big pieces that you need in place are you want to have like the button on there. My favorite ways to do is with Text and Church. They have an incredible plan your visit um, option like inside of Text and Church, which is phenomenal. And I was actually just talking to those guys the other day. I think it's top secret, but there's something really cool that I suggested they're now building into the software that I'm so pumped about. I can't say anything for sure because I'm only 90% sure it's actually gonna happen, but they're working on it. So maybe I can come back and talk about that if they build it. But they've got a great thing, a great option. So you can put that on your website. But then what you also need is you need somebody actually like looking at that, right? So when that plan your visit comes in, it needs to go to somebody, right? And then that person needs to contact the plan your visit within 15 minutes, right? And so what I mean is like a phone call or a text message, or what I think is actually both, right? So my favorite way to do it is if all of a sudden like you get a notification, John Smith just planned his visit for this Sunday. The first thing you want to do is call him. All right, like, and then most people aren't going to answer a phone call, right? Because it's 2022. So you leave a voicemail, which that's going to give you, that's going to give you just another touch point. They get a chance to hear your voice, right? Like using their name, whatever. Like, hey, John, what's up, man? It's Chris. Hey, man, I saw that you planned a visit for the church on Sunday, man. I just want to reach out, introduce myself to you, right? Answer any questions you might have about, where to park or what to wear. So, hey, just give me a shout back, man. Looking forward to connecting with you. Right. It's just that's what you can say if they pick up the phone. Most of the time they won't. So you leave that in a voicemail, but then immediately then you text them afterwards, basically the exact same thing. And now if they like talking on the phone, they'll call you back. Right. If they like texting, they'll text you back. And now you know the best way to communicate with them moving forward. I think that's a really powerful and underutilized technique. But you need to have that right. So you need to call the plan your visit within 15 minutes. I actually had a church that was doing this one time. They're like, hey, Chris, man, I had 8 plan your visits the very first week, right? He was running the prayer ads. And we're like, yeah, it'd be 1 plan your visit, maybe 2 per week. Some weeks it'll be 0. It's an ebb and flow, whatever. He's like, dude, I had 8 plan your visits the first week. I'm like, praise God, man. Like, that's awesome. Like, and he's like, yeah, but none of them showed up. I said, okay, great. Right. It's a church of 40 people. 8 plan your visits the first week. None of them showed up. I said, okay, great. Did you send an audio prayer to every single one of the prayer requests? He's like, yeah, every single one. I said, great. Did you call the plan your visits within 15 minutes? He goes, dang it. I knew I forgot something. I'm like, yeah. Right. So they filled out this thing saying, Pastor Rob, I want to come to church, man. Like, here's my name and information and my cell phone number. And then they didn't hear anything from you. Right. And then they started thinking, well, maybe he doesn't want me to check the church. And shoot, maybe he looked at my personal profile and things like, because I have tattoos, my life isn't cleaned up enough to come to his church. Right. They experience rejection and they don't show up on Sunday. So I was like, hey, reach out to him and say this, and you can get him back in. And then, and then just start calling the plan your visits in 15 minutes. Next week, he came back on a coaching call, said, dude, I had 7 plan your visits this week. I'm like, that's awesome. He said, yeah. And 6 of them showed up. And the only difference is that I called the plan your visits within 15 minutes. I'm like, Rob, I know, man. I'm not making this stuff up. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about and a lot of stuff I can't do in the ministry world. When it comes to this stuff, like, I'm not guessing, man. Like, that is what makes the difference in plan your visits showing up and not showing up, is that you have a system on the back end. And part of that system is that you call the plan your visits within 15 minutes. Right. There's some other practical things that you could do. Like we found our show up rate when we first started doing it was about 50%. Right. This is in 2017. We're kind of pioneering it. We were trying it for the very first time. And so I was making it up as I went along. But one of the things that we found out was Katie, she was the one that I would handle all the tech stuff. And then when a plan your visit came in, she was the one who would call them and reach out. She started texting them on Saturday nights, right, around like 6 p.m. or whatever, and just saying like, hey, John, this is Katie. Just want to let you know I'm super excited about meeting you tomorrow for plan your visit. Make sure you get here like 15 minutes early so I can meet you and your wife and get you guys a cup of coffee, right? See you in the morning, right? That little text message to where now it was like, oh, there's a person waiting for me tomorrow morning, right? All of a sudden, our show up rate went from 50% to 75%, right? Like literally overnight, just by sending a Saturday night reminder text. right? So there's a lot of little things and kind of nuances you can do to kind of, ensure that people actually show up and increase your show up rate. But yeah, it's having a system, on the back end, kind of knowing what you're doing. All right. Having a plan for like no shows, right? So even if you have, 10, if you have 10 planner visits and 7 of them show up, what do you do for the 3 that didn't show up? So having like a no-show plan. And again, you can create something like that inside of Text and Church really, really well. So those are some of the big things. And then even having an automated follow-up system for all the people that did come through Plan Your Visit, right? So they came out to church, they had a great time, they connected with you or someone on your staff, right? And had a great time. But the average churchgoer in the US only goes to church 1.2 times per month, right? And that was pre-COVID. So who knows what it is now, right? So you have to follow up with them for at least 12 weeks afterwards to continue to invite them back to church to get them back in. And so, that's having a follow-up system in place is really, really important, both for the Plan Your Visit no-shows and for the ones that actually show up, right? So a couple of different things that you can do there, but those are kind of some of the best practices for Plan Your Visit in order to accelerate your results and kind of really maximize everything that you're doing.
Well, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate, just a lot of your wisdom, a lot of your insight, just the practical relational aspects of just how simple some of this stuff is, rather than just kind of promoting our brand of church, of just really making it very personal in how we reach out to our communities. Obviously, there's so much depth that can go in underneath every single thing that we've talked through so far. I know that you have a YouTube channel that you work with CMU. What are some of the ways that guys can stay in touch with you or get in touch with you for coaching or training or some of this ongoing to be able to implement some of this?
Yeah. So, man, we've got like you said, the YouTube channel, right? Which is just my name. If you just go to YouTube and type in Chris Abbott, especially Chris Abbott Church Growth, I think we've got 250 videos out there or whatever, that can help. A lot of them explain Plan Your Visit, Facebook ads, the prayer ads, social media, Google, all kinds of stuff out there. So that's all free. We got plenty of that out there. So you can check out the YouTube channels one way. Or if you want some information on some of our coaching programs or something like that, you can always go to churchmarketinguniversity.com. Right, like we've got we have CMU where it's kind of like online course styles. We even have some scholarships available for that for smaller churches. So you can apply for a scholarship and then literally just kind of on demand, go at your own pace, learn Facebook ads and Plan Your Visit and all these different things. Or we have a Grow program, which is a little bit more. We'll actually run all of your Google ads for you. So there's a program out there that Google has where they'll give you $10,000 a month in free Google advertising every single month. Which if you've never heard of, it's crazy. I didn't believe it when I first heard it. And then I got it from my church. I'm like, it literally is like $10,000 a month in free Google ads, right? It's not a briefcase full of cash. So you can like make payroll and stuff, but it is, $10,000 every single month in like free Google ads, right? It's like $120,000 a year. But it's hard to run those ads. So we run those for churches. And then we have the Facebook prayer ads are inside of that program and weekly coaching calls and a bunch of other stuff. So you can check that out at churchmarketinguniversity.com/grow, or you can just shoot me an email if you have any personal questions. It's just chris@churchmarketinguniversity.com. If you guys have any questions or want to know some stuff, feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to do something I haven't done before. It was just a kind of a rapid fire conclusion to what we're doing here. So none of this has anything to do with most of what we've talked about so far.
Okay.
Just some random questions just to get to know you a little bit better. What was your first job?
Man, I worked at a nursery called Meadows Farms. So, like trees and plants and all that kind of stuff. And I was 14 years old and my official job was laborer. Right. Which means you did everything, right? So like lifting trees and cleaning things and all the heavy, dirty jobs. Me and a bunch of my lacrosse buddies all had that job. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. What was the last book you read?
Oh gosh. I'm reading so many right now. I never read one book at a time. I read like 7. So I'm reading Built to Last right now, which is awesome. Good to Great's like one of my all-time favorite books. I read Built to Last, but it was like probably 12 years ago. So I went out and reread, or I've been rereading Built to Last. And then I also read Winning the War in Your Mind with Craig Rochelle, which is phenomenal. And then Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I just finished that recently. That's one of my favorite books. Like it's in my top 10 now. It's phenomenal.
Awesome. What's your favorite restaurant?
Mahogany's. It's a local steakhouse here in Tulsa. Super expensive, but they have the best steak in the world.
Awesome. Who are some of the church leaders that you follow, listen to, read blogs, podcasts, all that?
Man, I love looking at a. I think a lot of times people tend to ignore people they don't agree with theologically, right? And I think as long as they love Jesus and believe that he died and was resurrected on the third day, right? Like, and I think the rest of the stuff's just details. So I like to look at a lot of different guys out there. Man, I think Rick Warren has put out some of the most incredible church growth stuff out there, right? Like he's worth looking at. Stephen Furtick's got some incredible stuff. Andy Stanley, Carey Nieuwhof. Like, man, there was a Carey Nieuwhof article that I read recently that was so good. I became so obsessed with it. I went out and made a YouTube video, and it was literally like, okay, guys, in this video, I'm literally just going to share all of Carey's stuff with you from like this article because it's so good, right? So he's a great guy out there. And then, it sounds funny because he's now my partner, but Ryan Wakefield I'm telling you, he's one of those smartest human beings on the planet, and like literally one of the best humans I know, right? Like I always say, I'm like, man, the one of my favorite stories in the Bible, right, is the paralyzed guy who was on a mat, couldn't get to Jesus, so his friends like went up on on the like roof and started digging through the ceiling, right? Like if you're wondering who Ryan Wakefield is, he's the guy up on the roof digging through the ceiling to get you to Jesus, right? Like he's that guy, and he's got so much great material out there about stuff. So yeah, those are probably just some of the guys. There's tons of them. I try to look at everybody who knows anything about church growth or how to reach people for Jesus.
Awesome, man. Last movie you saw in theaters?
Man, I tried to see Top Gun yesterday, but it was literally sold out at every single showing at every single theater. I guess I should have known that on Memorial Day. Gosh, it was probably a kid's movie. Right, I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. So whatever the most recent Disney Pixar, it's been a while since I've seen a movie in a theater. But whatever the last one was, I guarantee it was a Disney Pixar movie that I saw with my kids, probably.
That's funny. Two more. What actor would play you in a movie of your life?
Man, I've never thought of that. What a great question, Andrew. Shoot, I don't. Man, I don't know. Maybe like I want to say like Brad Pitt or something like that, right? Just because I think he's like one of the coolest humans on the planet. But it'd probably be what's that Seth guy? His name? Why can't I? Not Seth Rogen. Yeah, Seth Rogen. Yeah. It'd probably be Seth Rogen. Right? He's probably funnier than I am, but man, I love that dude.
Awesome. Last question. What's one thing that you do to stay close to the heart of God?
Ooh, man, my goal is to out worship everybody. So I lead worship at my church, and so one of the things I learned early on is that like when we get on stage and worship, right, like all people really see, all they get is somebody said this one time, like they get if we're filled up, right, like our cup is filled up, all people get is like the condensation on the outside of the bottle. Right. So like we have to be constantly just like full of the word of God and full of worship. Right. And so when I get on stage, all it is just an overflow of my personal worship time. Right. And so my goal every single week is just to out worship everybody out there. So that when I get on stage, it's just the overflow of like my personal time. Right. So like, man, my wife and kids are at church camp this week. So like I've had the house to myself. And yesterday I just took some time to just like, man, just dig into the word and write some worship lyrics and just worship. And I was just playing this old, do you remember that old song, How Deep the Father's Love?
Yeah.
Bro, man, that song just got me, right? Like I was playing on guitar, I was just worshiping, whatever. And I just, man, behold the man upon a cross, his my sin upon his shoulders, right? Like ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers, right? And dude, like, man, if I talk about it right now, I'll probably start crying, bro. But that song just wrecked me yesterday. And I'm just like in my bedroom, just like ugly crying, like to the Lord, because man, like he saved me, and just realized like, oh my gosh, like he's, like it was my sin that held him there on the cross, right? Like he died for me, and just, man, the thought that he had my sin upon his shoulders, he's dying on the cross. And it's easy to read that story and think, why would people yell, crucify him, crucify him? But man, I love that, ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. I was the one in the crowd yelling, crucify him, right? Like, and just like, and oh man, wrecked me. So anyway, that's my my personal goal every single week is just to try to out worship everybody. Like nobody's going to out worship me this week, and I'll be driving down the road with my windows down and the radio up, and I'm just singing worship at the top of my lungs, and people at red lights are looking at me like I'm crazy, right? But like, man, David just dancing, until his clothes fell off and stuff like that. I want to be that guy. So yeah, for me, it's trying to out worship everybody.
Awesome, man. Well, Abel, thank you so much for your time, bro. I really appreciate everything that you do for the church at large, and just pray that you have been a blessing to our community as well, our little network of churches. And yeah, thank you so much for everything, man. I appreciate it.
Man, Andrew, thanks so much for having me on, bro. Seriously, and anything I can do for you guys at all, man, just say the word. I'm happy to help, bro.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, bro.